Scá chéile a waras nó mríne. Is má an scéalaí an aimseir.
Our memory book will bring us
together. Our memory book will bring us together.
Grandma, look, that's Grandma. That is a great, great uncle.
Our story is a memory book developed by the Cuimhne team at Irish in Britain. Cuimhne is the Irish word for memory, and we have a large number of Irish people in Britain who are getting older, and many of them are experiencing memory loss and dementia. And the idea of my storybook is to actually help people with dementia to recall and to record their lives. It also is a resource for their families, and families can use it to help people recall the good times and hopefully not too many bad times. And it's a record of the individual that might go with somebody, perhaps if they have to go into a hospital or into a nursing care home. And it could actually allow the care that the person has to be more individualised, because staff will actually know the person.
Memory is important because it's part of what my childhood was and growing up, and part of my roots.
Yeah.
Losing identity, that means really losing memory.
Yes,
Losing identity.
If I want to be part of communication with other people, that won't happen if I don't if I can't think of things, if I lose my memory.
Collectively, memory within the community is for them to reflect on certain things, and then for them to see how they can celebrate certain things and remember important things and positive things, but also probably even negative things, which they would probably use to move on to something positive.
More than anything else, I think the storybook can be a very enjoyable exercise for anybody with dementia, and it can be a nice memoir for a family when somebody is no longer able to communicate with them because of dementia or other problems.
And also their professional work that they're doing, looking at that as well, that could also help with memory loss.
I keep my memory alive and healthy by being involved with the local community. I read quite a lot, music helps a lot, travel, and I have many interests.
Maybe small ornaments that children bought when they were very small with their pocket money. Anything that will trigger a memory for somebody. It'll be different for everybody. There will be photographs, there may be brochures from events, from concerts, there may be little trinkets from weddings, drawings that the children have done. Maybe a medal you got for something, for playing football or for your music. Maybe we can include some songs or some poems in our memory box to assist the use of the My Story book.
You're part of a community. And if you're not part of that community, you get very isolated and you're on your own. Even though you might have people just walking by you, but you're still very much in your own mind.
Many Irish people are white, and because they speak English, there's a tendency to neglect that we have our own culture, we have our own traditions, our own language and music. And sometimes when people with dementia need care in the health or the social care system, that cultural distinctiveness is not recognised. So we're hoping that the My Storybook will actually help professionals as well to deliver more culturally sensitive care to this very old and very vibrant community.
It also helps with a memory book if you can have some links with the family or the people that are close to that person with the memory loss. And of course, they've got to confide in you, they've got to have their confidence in you, they've got to feel comfortable with you.
Anything that will help the person to recall. It can also be cognitively stimulating for somebody who has poor memory. It might be nice for the carer as well to actually work with the person who has dementia. It might help the relative to actually get to know them better, to understand things about them, and to find out what they enjoy in life, and maybe use that when somebody is anxious or agitated.
Talk about the extended family, just not about the actual parents, you know, even the siblings, but to be broader than that. Even go to like first cousins and include the actual family in a broader state. And the person is, you know, the person with the memory loss is the important person, not me.
If people don't have photographs at all, for me, one of the things I would say is that, can you draw something? Can you remember a house, or can you remember somebody? Draw something and piece it together. But you could also say, can we find, you know, a family member? Can we find somebody who might have a photograph wherein probably you're right there, or even if you're not there, it might bring back some memories because probably you knew of that photograph being taken, even if you're not in the picture itself.
Think of my own Irishness and that experience. I also think of all of those that come from famine-torn countries, you know, sort of economic struggles, etc. And that's where my sort of thinking would sort of come, where you've got to be very careful, especially when it hasn't been a happy immigration. If they weren't born here, it wasn't a happy childhood.
1958, and it's during harvest time, and the neighbours all help to harvest.
I think it can also be very useful for the younger generation. It might be family members of the younger generation who want to know more about an elderly relative. It might be useful for history projects. It might help them to learn about things that have happened in the past. It might help youngsters learn about migration. So there are many uses, I think, for younger people, both as family members and educationally. There are many opportunities for people to learn from each other. But I think our main reason is that I think it can offer enjoyment. It can offer fulfillment to a person who is living with memory loss.
I've kept things of my mother and my father, and photographs of my siblings, and also a photograph of where I was brought up on a farm in County Cork, which was an aerial photograph, and I treasure that photograph because that's where my first 17 years of life.
It reminds them of their past, of things that they might have thought they failed with, and it might help them to put their life in perspective at the end of their days. I think it's also, can be quite enjoyable. People enjoy reminiscing. So looking back at the good times they had, remembering the good times at a time when maybe they feel very anxious and alienated. Using My Storybook or something like that can actually help trigger memories. It can help the person link the past with the present, and that can be challenging and exercising for the brain at a time when somebody is likely to be withdrawn. And I think in various groups, whether they're family groups or luncheon clubs or in care homes, it can encourage people to actually talk to each other, to talk to people who have had similar experiences and learn from them, and share some of the joys and tribulations that they had in earlier times in their lives. The book might also be used by staff or volunteers in luncheon clubs. Many of our Irish organisations offer lunch or cultural events or memory groups for people with dementia. And if somebody comes in with a memory book, maybe partly completed or not even touched on, the staff and the volunteers can actually help the person with that. It could be done on an individual basis, but maybe on occasions they could just look at the storybook of one person and use that to generate discussion in a group.
We don't remember everything. We don't remember everything at the same time.
We've got to be conscious of the fact that people will also have unhappy memories, which might be triggered by recalling some of their memories. And we should not be afraid of somebody who maybe becomes sad or tearful when they're talking about something that has happened to them in the past. It might provide a catharsis for them. It might be the only opportunity they had to talk about some of their feelings or some unresolved grief that they had. But I think it's also important to note that there are some issues, particularly within the Irish community, which people may talk about, sometimes for the first time. People who have lived in difficult families, Irish people who have been brought up in institutions, may recall memories of very difficult times, different types of abuse they have had. They may have buried that, and this may be the first time that has my story or some memory has triggered them. That may need more help than the average staff member or volunteer can get, but it may be the opportunity to signpost somebody to psychotherapeutic help or something like that. But I think on the whole, it's nice if people are able to talk about their sad memories, and whoever is dealing with my story at that particular time needs to know how to handle that sadness, not to stop it or block it, but actually to give time and help the person dealing with that. Storytelling is an important part of Irish culture. We're talking about an older generation mostly as well, who won't have had televisions or radios until quite late in their lives. So there is a tradition of storytelling in the home and in the villages, particularly in country areas of Ireland. So many people will actually enjoy the opportunity to tell stories, and some of them will embroider the stories they're telling as well. But I think aside from the pleasure it actually gives and the cultural importance of storytelling for Irish people, I think my storybook can be a trigger to tell some stories that people haven't told before.
Our lives are made up of memories, good and bad, and all the colours in between. We learn to be the editors of our own lives, deciding what memories to keep and what memories to leave behind. Our lives are unique journeys made up of shared moments, emotions, stories, struggles, achievements, pain, joy, love. But imagine what it might be like to find ourselves losing the memories of friends, events, places, memories that we dearly wish to hold on to, the anchors of our identity. Imagine what it might be like to live with memory loss. Imagine what it might be like to begin to forget how to imagine. Irish in Britain's memory book, My Story, is a tool for each of us, for our friends, families, colleagues, and the whole community to explore our memories and identities and share our life stories with those we care about and the next generations. It is also a special book that can help family members, friends, health workers and professional carers better to get to know and support those living with memory loss and dementia.
wheelbarrow, through the streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
In Dublin's first city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Merlot, as she wheeled her wheelbarrow through streets and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, alive.